We're back live tonight here on In Focus, and thanks for staying on. Well, today marks International Albinism Awareness Day. The United Nations says this year's event will take place under the theme of a decade of collective progress. Disability activist Success Mdluli joins us now for more on that. Success, good evening, and thank you for your time.
Good evening, Thabo. Thank you for having me on your show.
Since the UN General Assembly officially recognized the 13th of June as International Albinism Awareness Day, talk to me about how this has made, I suppose, awareness around the human rights issues of people with albinism to be highlighted and brought to the fore.
I think this day marks the progress that has been made, and basically it highlights the work that still needs to be done on creating awareness surrounding persons with albinism, particularly in developing countries, continents such as Africa, Asia, and South America, particularly our country, South Africa. I think it allows us to reflect on what has been done, what still needs to be done for people with albinism to be socially included and not be discriminated against.
Yeah. Before we get to highlight those things that have made remarkable headway, do you get a sense that there is a collective effort that is being made in pursuing human rights for persons with albinism?
I think there is a collective effort that has been made. I'm going to focus on our country, but I think a lot more still needs to be done surrounding persons with albinism in terms of creating more awareness. So I think what needs to be done is more campaigns or more education, especially in rural parts of the country, where people become aware of the condition. And in our curriculum, in our schools, so that young kids can grow up knowing albinism, it's the condition itself and how to basically coexist and treat people with albinism. Because there is currently so many myths and superstitions surrounding persons with albinism, which makes it so hard for people to coexist with us.
So let's talk about those strides, particularly the issue that you are just raising now, in combating stigma and discrimination.
Okay, so I think particularly in rural areas, there's been an increasing number of awareness campaigns. I've seen many companies having campaigns or creating awareness surrounding persons with disabilities. I've seen in most urban areas, like schools in Gauteng, for example, I've seen organizations visiting multiple schools in the townships to basically create awareness and let school kids know about the condition so that they can, not discriminate against persons with albinism.
Yeah. Are the cases of violence going down? Are you seeing more? There was a point where we were having conversations quite regularly around violence meted out at people with albinism, in fact, being killed in some instances, quite honestly.
I'm not sure about cases going down, but it's still an ongoing concern, especially in the rural parts of our country, KZN, Mpumalanga, Eastern Cape. I know many cases come from those provinces, but I'm not sure about the cases going down. I don't think there's been an exact, or there's been a study where they document or check if whether cases of killings of persons with albinism have been going up or down. But in my own opinion, I think they are still increasing because of there are people who are supposed to receive or be educated about the condition are still not receiving the awareness and the education that is needed to combat these murderers, which are caused by superstitions and the harmful myths that are out there.
Yeah. We are talking unity now, government of national unity, provincial or local, whichever one that you are talking about. But the political parties are talking the inclusion and inclusion of everyone, including those living with particular conditions. Do you think that, I mean, when you look at the manifestos and policy proposals of political parties, people living with albinism and their human rights were included in those conversations, in that discourse, and in whatever decision making is currently taking place in the country?
I've checked a lot of manifestos before voting myself. In my opinion, I think most political parties cover the rights of persons with disabilities in their manifestos and the inclusion of persons with disabilities in their manifestos. But I think particularly ANC has like good policies surrounding persons with albinism and disabilities in general. But I think what they have not been able to do is to basically integrate those policies in within school systems or curriculums in primary level and early childhood development to ensure that children don't grow up believing harmful myths surrounding persons with albinism and persons with disabilities in general.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is that although we've covered some ground, there needs to be a strengthening, one, of the protection in terms of the legislation, in terms of policies. There needs to be an inclusion. There needs to be data collection, because I think that's the other thing that you're highlighting, that there's a lot of data that we don't have, and of course heightened public awareness and particular representation in all spheres of society. Are you seeing the representation, especially in the spheres of society? Because, you know, previous conversations I would hear is around particular, for example, positions that people with albinism would not be hired in. I mean, are you seeing a change as far as that is concerned?
This is okay. It's gonna be opinion based. I think for me, I have seen some change. Most companies, structures of government are including persons with disabilities, people with albinism within their organizational structure or organizations. But I think a lot more needs to be done in order to make sure that persons with disabilities with albinism are represented across companies, structures, public, private structures, to basically ensure that discrimination is decreased within those companies or public government structures, and make sure that accessibility is there, because of that is another issue that people with disabilities, people with albinism face when like maybe going to a new place of employment, for example. It's simply you find that there is no one with a disability in that organization. So the organization was designed in such a way that it does not, it's not accessible, it's not catering for a person who cannot see, who has a visual impairment, for example. So
yeah.
a lot more needs to be done.
Now, you know, we have this particular department called Women, Children, Youth and People with Disability being, you know, kind of squeezed in and put in there in the presidency. The last time I spoke to the minister there, you could feel her frustration in terms of the budget that has been given to a department and the kind of work that she needs to do and so on and so forth. If you were to give advice to whoever comes in, and this is hoping that that department will still be there in terms of the cabinet formation, what would be the one thing that you would put there that they need to focus on as far as the plight of people living with albinism?
I think just focusing on grassroots organizations. There are many campaigns and organizations, many people with albinism working on the ground, working hard to create this much needed awareness surrounding the condition of albinism, but they are experiencing lack of support simply because of, you know, the people who are in that department are not accessible enough, or like simply just information is not you cannot get information as an activist, activist. I'm sorry, surrounding the department and what you can basically do to get support from the department. So I think what they need to do is basically get in touch with multiple organizations that are currently working to create all these awarenesses, currently working with different schools, so that they can find out how better to support their awareness campaigns, because of they are greatly under-supported.
Success, appreciate your time and thank you very much for coming on and your intervention tonight. That's Success Mdluli, disability activist, on raising awareness on International Albinism Awareness Day.